Did you know the man who gave us Captain Jack Sparrow is about to surprise us all again? And no, I'm not talking about another blockbuster movie or some Hollywood drama. This time, he's heading back to his first love. Music. Yep, Johnny Depp, the same Johnny we've all watched light up the big screen, has been working behind the scenes on something that might just rock your playlists very soon. And here's the thing, most people have no idea how deeply this matters to him. This isn't just a little side project. It's not just a, hey, let me try this for fun. No, this is Johnny pouring his heart into something that's been a part of him since long before the fame, before the cameras, before the headlines. So let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered what really happens when someone like Johnny Depp, a massive star, a household name, walks into a recording studio? Do you picture a bunch of assistants scrambling around, producers just slapping together some quick tracks for him to sing over? Do you think it's all just, for show? Because what you're about to find out might just change the way you see him. Stick with me here, because by the end of this story, you're going to hear some details about Johnny's new music project that will leave you saying, wow. I didn't know he had it in him. And I'm saving one especially surprising little fact for the end, something he did during filming of one of his most iconic roles that ended up becoming part of this project. So sit back. Get comfortable. Let's talk about Johnny, and what he's been up to while the rest of the world wasn't watching. See, before the pirate hat. Before the scissors for hands. Before all the quirky characters we love him for. Johnny was just a teenager with a guitar. He grew up in Florida. Just this kid who spent hours sitting in his room, strumming chords, trying to figure out how to make the sounds in his head come to life. Music was his first love. Acting? That was almost an accident. He once said he only went on auditions to pay the bills, but it was always the music that gave him peace. That grounded him. And if you pay attention, in his movies, in interviews, you can still see that spark in his eyes when he talks about music. It's like this quiet, steady flame that never went out. And now? He's finally letting us see what's been burning inside all these years. When Johnny decided to finally record this album, he didn't want to just throw together something generic. He didn't want it to sound like everyone else. So he took his time. He thought about the kind of sound that would feel true to him, something that felt like his own story. Not just a bunch of random songs, but a journey. He leaned into the blues. Into that raw, gritty vibe that you feel more than you hear. You know, the kind of music that makes your chest ache in a good way? That's what he was after. Gritty guitar riffs. Vocals with just the right amount of roughness. Honest, simple, but full of emotion. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Once he figured out what he wanted to say, he brought in a team to help bring it to life. But not just any team. He called on some legendary names. Big names in the rock world. People you'd never expect to see in the same room. And he didn't stop there, he even brought in a jazz musician for one track. Just to shake things up. Because that's Johnny, always keeping you guessing. One of the producers who worked with him said it best. He said, Johnny doesn't just want to make music. He wants to make moments. And you can hear that in every single track. Now, you might think, once you've got the right sound and the right people, the rest is easy, right? Well, not exactly. Recording this album took months. Johnny would show up at the studio late at night, sometimes staying until the sun came up. There are stories of him recording the same song over and over, 10, 15, even 20 takes, just to get the feeling right. One of the sound engineers said, it's not about perfection for him. It's about honesty. If it doesn't feel real, he'll scrap it and start over. And that's probably what makes this project so special. He's not doing this to prove anything. He's doing it because he loves it. And in case you were wondering, because a lot of fans do ask, yes. Johnny writes a lot of his own lyrics. He sits there with his notebook, scribbling down lines, crossing things out, trying to find the words that fit what he's feeling. And some of those lyrics? They're raw. Painful even. You can tell he's writing about the tough times he's been through these last few years. The heartbreak. The pressure. But there's hope in there too. It's like he's saying, yeah. Life hurts. But I'm still here. And if that's not relatable, I don't know what is. Now, let me tell you a few little details about this album that most people don't know. For starters, the guitar he plays on most of these tracks? It's not some brand new, shiny instrument. Nope. It's actually the same vintage guitar he used when he was a teenager. The same one he toured with in tiny clubs before anyone knew his name. It's a little beat up now. Scratched. But it's full of history. Full of memories. Kind of like Johnny himself, right? And the studio where he recorded? Forget what you think you know about recording studios. Bright lights. Big computers. Fancy, high-tech everything. Johnny made it his own. He dimmed the lights. Lit candles. Hung up old black and white movie posters on the walls. One of the engineers said it felt more like hanging out in someone's living room than a studio. And maybe that's why the album sounds so personal. Here's another little fun fact. And this one's for all the DIY musicians out there. Johnny actually recorded parts of this album on old-school analog tape. Not digital. That's rare these days. But it gives the music this warm, rich sound you just can't fake on a computer. So yeah, if you've ever thought about making your own music, take a lesson from Johnny. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real. And speaking of real, remember how I told you there was one little detail about this album that might blow your mind? Well, here it is. One of the most unforgettable choruses on the album, the one everyone's going to be singing, wasn't written in the studio. It wasn't written at home. Johnny actually came up with it on set, during the filming of one of his most iconic movies. He was in full costume. Hair, makeup, everything. And during lunch break, he sat down at a table, grabbed a napkin, and started scribbling lyrics. Just like that. That napkin still has the original lines. And that song? It made the final cut of the album. Even pirates, it seems, get inspired over lunch. And now, I want to turn this over to you. If you could ask Johnny one thing about his music, just one question, what would it be? Drop your answer in the comments below. I'd really love to hear what you're thinking. And if you enjoyed this little peek behind the scenes, you're going to love what we've got coming next. Check out our other video about how some of your favorite stars secretly write their own songs. You can find it right here on the channel. And of course, if you had fun hanging out here today, do me a quick favor? Hit that like button. Subscribe. And ring the bell. It helps more than you know. And it makes sure you never miss another story like this. Because something tells me, this is just the beginning of Johnny's musical journey. And maybe, just maybe, it's the beginning of yours too. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you in the next one.